In this video, I will give a tutorial on how to install Kali Linux on Oracle VM VirtualBox. But first, I'm going to briefly explain the purposes of both Kali Linux and VirtualBox. Kali Linux is an operating system, a Linux distribution to be exact, that was primarily created for cybersecurity professionals. It includes a plethora of pre-installed security tools like Nmap, Burp Suite, Wireshark, TCP Dump, Social Engineering Toolkit, MSF Console, John the Ripper, Kismet, Hydra, and Medusa, just to name a few. During the installation process, you are able to customize the operating system. You can choose your desktop environment, encryption settings, and specific paths. Kali is also compatible with full disk encryption, which we'll see later on in the video. If you decide to use full disk encryption, Kali uses Linux Unified Key Setup, or LUKS for short, for the encryption, and Logical Volume Manager, LVM, for the disk management. Oracle VM VirtualBox is an open source hypervisor, which gives users the ability to host, create, and manage several virtual machines at once on one physical machine. Virtual machines, specifically Oracle VirtualBox, are valuable resources for cybersecurity professionals. VirtualBox allows us to isolate the different virtual machines we've installed from each other, but most importantly, from the physical host machine. Because of the isolation, VirtualBox gives us controlled environments which are valuable for malware testing, vulnerability scans, pen testing, and general experimentation you might want to do away from your host machine. As we'll see later on in the video, VirtualBox is very easy to use and only requires an image file to set up the virtual machine. Let's now get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is install VirtualBox. Input VirtualBox in the search bar of your web browser. Make sure you're going to the right website. You can see it here on the screen, but I'll link it in the description as well. We'll click on Download VirtualBox 7.0, then we'll select our physical machine's operating system. I'm using a Windows machine, so I'm going to click on Windows. Then go through the setup process by clicking on the executable that was downloaded. After VirtualBox is installed, we'll download the Kali Linux image file. Make sure it's the right website again. We'll start by clicking Download, and then on Installer Images, even though it is a virtual machine. Here we have the image file options to download from 64-bit, Apple Silicon, and 32-bit machines. I have a 64-bit machine, so I'm going to download this one right here. The file is 3.9 gigabytes, so it may take a while to download. Once that's finished downloading, we can go to VirtualBox and select New. I'm going to name this VM Kali Linux, then I'm going to select the Kali Linux image file. It automatically sets Ubuntu as the Linux version, but because Kali Linux is Debian-based, we'll need to select Debian 64-bit. Then, we'll allocate RAM and CPUs to the VM. For my purposes, I'm allocating 5 gigabytes of RAM and giving it 4 CPUs, but this can be customized however you'd like. For the hard disk, we'll keep on Create a Virtual Hard Disk Now. I'm going to give mine 80 gigabytes, but you should allocate at least 40. After completing the setup in VirtualBox, we can now launch Kali Linux. We can click Start to power on the VM. It'll take a few seconds to start before opening in a new window. Select Graphical Install by either clicking on it or by pressing Enter. Here you can choose your preferred language, location, and keyboard layout. Kali then begins to load installer components from the installation media and establishes a network connection. We can now put in a host name. You can put in whatever you want here. We can skip over the domain name for now. And now you can set up your name, username, and password to sign on to Kali. Now you can select your time zone, and then Kali will detect the disks to partition. For this video, I'm going to use the entire disk and set up encrypted LVM for extra security. I'm going to hit enter here, and once again enter. Here I'm going to select yes and hit enter. The disk partition will take about 6 minutes depending on your network connection, so I'm just going to fast forward here. Now we're asked to create another passphrase for the disk encryption. This should be a separate password from what was created earlier. I'm going to hit continue here and accept these final two options. Kali will now install the base system, configure the package manager, and install the software. This will take several minutes. We can now choose what software to install. I want to keep my collection of tools and the default desktop environment. GNOME and KDE Plasma are different desktop environments. It's going to install more software now. This will also take several minutes. Here we select yes, and we choose the Grub bootloader that appears on the screen. We're almost done, we just have to wait for the installation to finish. We choose continue, and Kali should now load. You can hit enter to boot Kali. Here it's asking me for my encryption password. If you partition the disk without setting up encryption, you won't see this page. You'll only see the login page with your username and password. Now we'll sign on with our username and password. Everything seems to be working, but I'm going to test the network connectivity by pinging Google. We're receiving packets back, so everything works.